Hails and welcome to Rauta's Underground Trio. Once again, we have three different type of bands here, also from various parts of the world. First, we'll go in alphabetical order and then from worst to best. First, we have here something like Holdlajtorja I don't know how to pronounce this, and if I'm not mistaken, this one is from Hungary. Then some Finnish progressive rock / progressive metal Subspace Radio with their comeback album. And finally, Voluptas, and this is more like black metal married to doom. Now let's change the order according to my own opinion, which one is first to best. Curiously enough, we start with the same one. This is pretty much a hard nut to crack. First of all, it's not just one genre, but a kind of a hybrid. It's experimental in nature, maybe a little bit progressive, but definitely kind of hard cookie in the sense that it's not really for one audience only. To be honest, I'm not sure which audience this is really done for. Maybe it's more about like, hey, we do what the hell we want, and if you don't understand it, if you don't like it, go screw yourself. I don't know. For me, this was kind of a tricky, because there are things which I like, and then again, lots of just a kind of a basic stuff which doesn't really resonate. So, in essence, it's more like a doom death kind of a thing with a little bit of experimentations in the mix. There are parts where this kind of gets more melodic, but some of them are really, really mediocrity. From doom metal side, it has this kind of a slow tempo, and also kind of a very organic feeling, which means this is kind of far away from those super hype produced album, which are sometimes very sterile and sometimes then again just like very, very bombastic, powerful, and making the impact with riffs. This is more like, let's go back to the old school ways and let's somehow try to make it work. Now, I'm gonna say it out loud. There's nothing wrong with the production. It's heavy enough for this kind of stuff, and in order to combine that and do metal the old school ways, it kind of delivers. But when it comes to the vocals, for instance, they could be a lot more better. Now it seems like they're a little bit lazy. Maybe that's the pure intention to just like, hey, we're not gonna add too much aggression and power to it. But in my opinion, it just makes this album partially being a little bit lazy. On another note, a lot of these riffs and melodies are a little bit too mediocrity, as if the band was just running out of ideas and decided, okay, we need some filler parts, so just let's use the ones we didn't initially want to use. And as a result, this goes somewhere between the good and bad. For me, it's kind of a mediocrity, and like I know I hate to say it, but sometimes albums are more or less in their demo phases. So while not exactly bad, I mean this is way better than just bad albums, I find it's a lot of work in progress. This band doesn't have much many releases out there, so that kind of explains it. Kind of showcasing what you have when there's not maybe enough experience with the band. Kind of a nice idea, but not there yet. Secondly, we go back to Finland with Subspace Radio. This was originally founded in around 2002, if I'm not mistaken. Did a couple of albums early 2000s before they call it day and vanished. Basically, hiatus, which then again kind of meant the band was split up for many, many years. But around 2022 or so, the band made a comeback album and then a couple of singles, and now they're here with a new album from 2025. This is actually the most fresh of these all, because this was released in late May, actually when I'm filming this, like one day prior to the release date. So very, very fresh from the oven. Even the band's website isn't even updated with the new album yet, but by the time you see this video, it's very much like that. Quite of a nice looking digipack if you ask me, even though I'm going to say some people are going to get annoyed when you can't really remove the booklet out of the package here. But apart from that, yeah, gotta say, nice packaging from a virtually unknown label, Eclipse. I'm not sure if this is band's own label or if it's something bigger, but nonetheless, nice work with this non-glossy digipack. Musically, this almost 60 minutes of an album is a tricky pony, however, because it's kind of a falls between the progressive metal and progressive rock. Some parts are really, very heavily, more heavy than just, rock. But some people will feel this is kind of a too lightweight for a metal band. So maybe you're thinking now, okay, is it kind of a Devin Townsend thing? I'm just thinking of because I was recently listening to it. No, it's not that crazy. But yeah, in terms of heaviness, lightness, whatever you want to call it, it's roughly in that department. So a lot of ideas are more like either very, very lightweight metal or then a little bit heavier in terms of rock music, progressive one. As such, obviously this album comes with nice production, good vocalist, and they're skilled and talented enough to, just make it happen. Unfortunately, and this is obviously the big deal breaker here, the songs are not that good. This is very easy to just kind of let it flow through and kind of enjoy the journey. But eventually, it's more like one of those river trips. Once you have seen it for a while, the rest of the time it's just waiting for the trip to end and you're like, okay, I'm off the boat. So my point here is, these guys technically have everything of it. They have the sound, they have the vocals, production, they know what they're doing. Except that the songs are not catchy, memorable, all that stuff. I was giving it a one more like a bonus spin in order. Maybe I will just crack the code and somehow it will wow. But nope. But maybe it's also partial that I'm really picky when it comes to progressive stuff. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of like progressive death metal things. There are the albums by Pink Floyd, which I love greatly. But this doesn't really resonate too much for me. So maybe the hiatus hurt the band a little bit, or maybe they just haven't found the golden ticket yet. Who knows? But for progressive rock and metal fans, give it a go. Finally, we're back with the best one, Voluptas. And this is a interesting case because it's basically like black metal marrying a doom metal thing. And there are ideas which are pretty good, and then there are parts where you just get like, what the hell? For example, the use of saxophone here. Not that there is much, but it's a little bit like weird. On top of that, this is a combination of, like I said, good and mediocre ideas. But this is not that hard of a cookie versus the first one, which I had here, because this is more kind of a, having better flow with everything. And as such, this album is more likable. Also, there is more aggression and faster parts, which definitely is some kind of a booster this kind of a music needs. I mean, if you're gonna go doom metal, you either go with for full or then you need the versatility. Because if you go with just like mid-tempo, slow-tempo stuff and there's not too much interesting happening, it's gonna get boring unless you have real killer vocalist coming from the more classic type of doom metal singing that is more akin to epic heavy metal and whatever. I won't say this is exactly a good one, but it's on the decent side of things. There are like ideas which I like, but still, much like the first album here, it's a little bit messy and more like a work in progress. But this band is definitely getting there, and as such, there are some interesting ideas making this worthwhile listening to. So, the best of the pile here. Now, all the albums or the bands have these respective links in the description box. So, check them out if you feel there's something for you. If not, now you know more. We'll see you with the next review episode. Take care and stay metal.